right, hello everybody. I just wanted to take a minute and make a quick video to explain the files that I've just sent to you. These are the files that we're going to need in preparation for the coordinated monitoring meeting on April 20th. So we'll be working on preparing for the FY23 monitoring, which runs from September 1, 22 to August 31st of 23. So I just figured it would be easier to understand everything as I walk through it rather than have it typed out in a really long email, especially since some of y'all haven't seen this report before and it contains a lot of information. So if you open up the 2022 CMM handout, you're going to see 3 tabs here. This first tab is the full draft of the 22 integrated report that TCEQ has prepared. This report's also available on TCEQ's website, but it's in a PDF format, but I've converted it here to an Excel format so that it's easier to filter on any of the segments or parameters that you may be interested in. So you can just click on any of these segments here, for example, 801, if that's the segment you're looking at. And it shows all of the water bodies that were assessed, all of the parameters that were assessed, the criteria, and then the final findings of the assessment. So the abbreviations here are FS for fully supporting, NC for no concern, CS or CN for concerns, and NS for non-supporting. You might also see some NAs for not assessed. And then over here in the CF column, that means carry forward. And if there's a yes, a Y in that column, then that finding has been carried forward from a previous assessment. Maybe it's because there wasn't enough data in this particular assessment period, or because there wasn't enough data that was needed to delist, because it takes more data to delist than it does to list an impairment. The next tab is the draft 23 monitoring schedule. And here basically what I've done is I took the existing 22 monitoring schedule after the amendments that we've done over the past 6 months, and I have just renamed it 23. That's where we're going to start from. So if you have any changes that you need to make to this, just email those changes to me. You can just email them directly to me, or you could make the changes and notate them here in this document and send that back to me. Just make sure you highlight it or some way that I can see what that change has been. And then this third tab, this is the meat of this file. This is a summary of a compilation of data from several different sources. And so it's kind of what I use for the monitoring planning. Again, some of y'all have seen this in the past, some of you have not. So these first 4 columns here, that is the segment designations. So those could be classified, unclassified, or what I'm calling undefined segments. Classified segments like 801, 802, 803, etc. Just numbers are defined by the Texas Surface Water Quality Standards Appendix A. Unclassified segments are those segments that have not been defined in Appendix A. TCEQ has named these, given these designations, and they're generally tributaries to the classified segments. And so TCEQ identifies them as the segment prefix, so 801, and a letter suffix, A, B, C, D, etc. These could also be small little ponds, off-channel reservoirs, like SCS reservoirs, things like that. But most of them are segments. So, and then I talked about undefined segments. So that's a designation that I've been giving just for the purposes of this file. Based on any of the monitoring history in the TCEQ database, there has been sampling in Turtle Bayou, Lake Anahuac, Spring Branch, Hackberry Gully, etc., all the way through. But they had historic data maybe many years ago, or they're more recently added streams or other water bodies and have not been assessed yet. So these are identified just by the segment and the word undefined, and then I just put the water body name there. So for example, these segments here, or these streams here, those were sampled many years ago, but we also have some more recently sampled segments. If you scroll down through, you'll find them eventually, and they'll have some monitoring in more recent years. So some of our new partners and new stations that have been added on streams that haven't been monitored in the past, those could eventually become an unclassified segment as data accrues and there's enough data to assess. TCQ may eventually turn those into unclassified segments. So the second section here, that is the summary of the draft integrated report. It basically boils the integrated report down to just a few lines of info, just easier to visualize. So for example, 801, I just identified as fully supporting for aquatic life, recreation, and domestic water supply. And then there was a concern for chlorophyll. So if we go back over here to the full report for aquatic life, domestic water supply in both AUs, and contact recreation, every parameter that was assessed under these uses was found to be fully supporting or no concern. So those are identified as fully supported in the summary. But then you can see here for general use, there were several parameters being assessed with chlorophyll having a concern. So that's why this is listed as orange chlorophyll concern. So then if we have a cell that's filled in gray with NA, that is where TCQ has identified that they haven't assessed the segment or use. And then anything that doesn't have any text or any color, that there's no information in the integrated report, essentially not assessed, but it's not listed as not assessed in the integrated report. Let's see. So again, as I mentioned, some of these areas may show up in future integrated reports just as data becomes available. So this third section here, this is the history of monitoring at every station. And this is based on what I downloaded from the TCQ SWCMIS database. So this lists every station that was in the database for the entirety of that database from 1968 all the way up through the most recent, which was 2021. More recent data through 22 hasn't been uploaded yet. Eventually it will be, and these can be updated in future years. So what I have done is, backing up, you can also expand the cells between, or the columns between these two columns to see the entirety from 1968 to 2015. They're just hidden, so that it could fit on this screen. So basically what I did was if there was any monitoring for the year, I indicated that there was monitoring for this station by TCQ in 2016. It doesn't indicate how much monitoring was done, what parameters, just simply that there was monitoring at that location. If it's just a year number, that means it's the calendar year, so January to December. You can see I've got the word Monsk in these three columns. Because the last year of monitoring in the database was 21. I didn't know if all of 21 was uploaded, so I just included the calendar year data from the monitoring or from the SWCMIS database, and also anything that was on the 21 monitoring schedule. So that's kind of a combo field right now. And then these two are based just on the 22 and the 23 monitoring schedules right now. Again, as years go by, I'll update this file and that'll become representative of just what's in the database. Let's see, and these last two columns over here are the notes that I've collected around these meetings. So this column are all the notes that I compiled around the coordinated monitoring meeting from last year, 21, preparing for the FY22 monitoring schedule, which we're currently in. And then this column here is all the notes that I've been compiling for the FY23 monitoring schedule that will be coming up starting September 1st. There's some color coding in here. That color coding is explained up there. For example, this yellow color coding just means that the findings of the integrated report do not appear to be covered by the draft 23 monitoring schedule. So they may not get addressed this year, but the intent is to keep this information together in one place so that we can see how we're progressing. For example, many years ago, we started some targeted monitoring specifically to address the findings of the integrated report. Obviously, it takes time to collect the amount of information needed for assessment. So once we collect that amount of information, we'll change those resources to other areas. And then, if we need to circle back around in the future to some of these segments that we've already hit in our targeted monitoring, we can and will do that. So I think that covers everything for this. So the other files that you've received are some KMZ files that you can open up in Google Earth. So you can just click on the icon, and if you have Google Earth installed on your computer, it'll open it directly up in there. Then you can expand these folders, and you're going to see 3 different files. The segment and NHD streams, that's just some supplemental information that you might need to review the monitoring stations. The focus here, though, is on the draft monitoring schedule layer. And you can see there's some color coding here that indicates what city it is. So, for example, the city of Arlington sites are in purple. So what I would like for all of you to do is to confirm your sampling locations. So you can just click on this to expand the folder, go down to your city. So again, if we're looking at the city of Arlington, we're going to zoom in to confirm that our monitoring is taken at this location. Just please note that the locations are based on the lat long that TCQ has provided for that station, based on the station location requests over the years. So those coordinates are good for 400 meters, so 400 meters up or downstream, or 400 meter radius in a reservoir, as long as there's nothing that would change the water quality at that location. So this could be a tributary, or it could be a cove or arm of a reservoir that isn't representative of the station as it's indicated on this map. So for example, for station 10722, 400 meters upstream would go to roughly about right here, and 400 meters downstream would go here. So if you were sampling in this downstream area, there doesn't appear to be anything. You would get a better idea on the ground, but there doesn't appear to be anything that would change water quality. However, if you were to sample 400 at the maximum extent, 400 meters upstream, you might be running into where this other little tributary is coming in, and that definitely would change water quality. So if that is where you were sampling, we would need to get you a new site ID, and we would need to find out when this change was made so that we can correct the data that's in the state's database. Now, if we wanted to look at how that might affect a reservoir site, if we go down here to Jopal Lake, we're sampling at a site here. So this site is representative of the mid-channel of this arm of the reservoir, right? But if we were sampling 400 meters away, that would be right here. That's representative of this backwater area. So if that's where we were sampling, it's not representative of this station. So I think that's everything. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And I look forward to seeing you all at the meeting on April 20th. Thanks. Bye.